knows deep down in the pit where his soul should be, in that pot where all the undigested fried chicken and off-brand Sudafed piles up, he knows that no one respects him. He knows they all just want something from him. And he knows the world is laughing at him, that his brain and face are like a creamsicle melting on the sidewalk. So he calls up a trophy shop and he says, grab a pen, let's make some plaques. It takes a special kind of lunatic to get his insults cast in bronze.
Imagine having an ego so fragile that you literally commission bronze plaques to insult your predecessors. Today, we're deconstructing the absolute mental gymnastics of a man who thinks Ronald Reagan was his biggest fan, even though Reagan wasn't even conscious of his existence. Jimmy Kimmel just dismantled the most pathetic wall of fame in history live on TV.
Well, you probably don't know this because you're here, but at home we had a surprise primetime episode of The Worst Wing tonight on every channel. Now, yesterday, the president announced he'd be giving an impromptu liar-side chat tonight in the middle of the season finales of Survivor and The Floor. He interrupted. It's weird to think that you had a couple of states just gone the other way. He'd be hosting one of those shows. Trump shouldn't be preempting The Floor. He should be mopping it, okay? Trump, he gave a speech or whatever you want to call it.
Think about the sheer audacity. You're sitting down to watch the season finale of your favorite show, and suddenly the liar-side chat interrupts your evening? Kimmel hits the nail on the head here. Trump shouldn't be preempting The Floor, he should be mopping it. This is a man who treats the presidency like a reality TV slot he's afraid of losing. It's an absolute circus where the ringmaster refuses to leave the tent even after the audience has gone home. Imagine being so self-absorbed that you think your rambling is more important than national primetime entertainment. It's not leadership, it's a desperate cry for attention.
It really is amazing that this fool is president. Former special counsel Jack Smith, you remember that name, the scary guy we all thought was going to bring him down? He secured 2 criminal indictments against Trump, one for stealing classified documents, the other for Trump's efforts to overturn the election in 2020. He was summoned, Jack Smith, to reveal his findings to the House Judiciary Committee this morning at the request of Trump-friendly committee chairman Jim Jordan. The meeting was held behind closed doors. It was private which turned out to be awkward because one of the doors happened to be the one Melania was hiding behind. And Jack Smith testified that his team gathered powerful evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Trump broke the law. We all gathered that. He did it on tape. It was on television. He broke the law live on TV. We didn't need a special counsel to get that. We had TiVo record the whole thing.
This is where the logic hammer drops. We're talking about a man who committed crimes and recorded the evidence himself. Kimmel points out the obvious. We didn't need a special counsel for things we saw with our own eyes on live television. The mental gymnastics required to defend this are staggering. Jack Smith has the tapes, the documents, and the testimony, but the defense is just ignore what you saw. It's factually bankrupt. You can't claim innocence when you provided the play-by-play of your own law-breaking. It's the ultimate self-own in political history.
The White House. He revealed another new addition to the home today, to his presidential wall of fame. He added plaques under each photo of each president, in some cases 2 plaques, because he had too much to say on just one plaque. And before I show these, before I read them aloud, I want you to understand that these are real. We didn't alter these. This is not a bit. This is what our president is doing. This is the plaque for Joe Biden, his successor. Sleepy Joe Biden was by far the worst president in American history, taking office as a result of the most corrupt election ever seen.
Now we enter the realm of the truly bizarre. Trump created a presidential wall of fame where he writes his own history, literally. He commissioned bronze plaques to call Joe Biden Sleepy Joe and the worst president. This isn't just petty, it's clinically delusional. He's using museum-grade materials to store Twitter-level insults. It's a sad, bronze-plated attempt to rewrite a reality that he simply cannot accept. Imagine the staffer who had to call the trophy shop for this. Yes, hello, I'd like 1 plaque that says corrupt election in a nice serif font, please. Pathetic.
Who else would write that? There's one for Obama, too. Barack Hussein Obama was the first black president, a community organizer, a one-term senator from Illinois, and one of the most divisive political figures in American history. As president, he passed the highly ineffective Unaffordable Care Act. He presided over a stagnant economy, approved the terrible Iran nuclear deal, and signed the one-sided Paris Climate Accords, both of which were later terminated by President Donald J. Trump. He crippled small businesses, spied on the campaign of Trump, and presided over the creation of the Russia hoax, the worst political scandal in American history. His hand-picked successor, Hillary Rodham Clinton, would then lose the presidency to Donald J. Trump. This is on the plaque.
The obsession continues. He couldn't even leave Obama's plaque alone without mentioning himself. According to these plaques, the only notable thing about Obama's presidency was that he lost to Donald Trump later on. It's a total breakdown of logic. He's so deeply insecure that he has to insert his name into the legacy of every person who came before him. This is high-level narcissism masked as historical record. It's a desperate attempt to stay relevant in a timeline that is moving on without him. The insecurity is radiating off the bronze.
He even worked himself into the Reagan plaque. Ronald Reagan won the Cold War and transformed American politics. He was a fan of President Donald J. Trump. Long before President Trump's historic run for the White House, likewise, President Trump was a fan of his. Reagan was a fan of his long before he ran for president. Ronald Reagan died in 2004. He was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 10 years before that. What was he a fan of exactly? Trump's Pizza Hut commercials? I mean, what a sad individual.
This is the peak of the delusion. Trump claimed Ronald Reagan was a fan of his long before his run for office. Logic check. Reagan was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in the early 90s and passed in 2004. What was he a fan of? A Pizza Hut commercial? It's an absolute fabrication of history. He's claiming endorsements from people who weren't even mentally present to give them. It's factually bankrupt and, quite frankly, a slap in the face to Reagan's legacy. He's making up imaginary friends to feel validated. How much more delusional can it get?
He deep down in the pit where his soul should be, in that pot where all the undigested fried chicken and off-brand Sudafed piles up, he knows that no one respects him. He knows they all just want something from him, and he knows the world is laughing at him, that his brain and face are like a creamsicle melting on the sidewalk. So he calls up a trophy shop and he says, "Grab a pen, let's make some plaques." It takes a special kind of lunatic to get his insults cast in bronze.
We come back to the Creamsicle Meltdown. Kimmel's description is brutal because it's accurate. Deep down, in that pit where a soul should be, he knows the world is laughing. The plaques are just a shield against the reality that no one respects him. His face is melting under the pressure of his own lies, and his only solution is to cast his insults in bronze. It takes a special kind of lunatic to think a trophy shop can fix a broken reputation. It's not a legacy, it's a cry for help cast in metal.
Abraham Lincoln, he freed the slaves. Who would have loved me? They would have. Can we please put this man in a home before he completely destroys the one he's in now? If your grandfather was doing this, you would send him away. The other big event in Washington today, for me anyway, was a Senate hearing about that little incident I had with the FCC that got us an unwanted vacation a couple of months ago. So this morning, the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation convened to grill FCC Chairman and hairless colon weasel Brendan Carr. He is the tough guy who threatened the company I work for, saying we could do this the easy way or the hard way. During the hearing, Democrats grilled him on his attacks on free speech, while Republicans focused mostly on rural broadband service maps. They danced around. It was like the hokey pokey. Surprisingly, the only Republican who really said anything critical at all was my old pal, Senator Ted Cruz.
So I would note Senator Kim asked multiple questions about whether it is appropriate for politicians to try to pressure the FCC to silence their critics. My answer to that is unequivocally no.
Now, to his credit, Ted was the only Republican to express that thought. Unfortunately, he also expressed this thought.
Jimmy Kimmel is angry, overtly partisan, and profoundly unfunny.
There's my old ball of expired mayonnaise.
Finally, he compares himself to Lincoln. Of course he does. But the real kicker? Being called expired mayonnaise by the people he tries to bully. Kimmel's closing thought is the one we're all thinking. If your grandfather was doing this, you'd put him in a home. Instead, we have a man trying to destroy the house he's in. It's a tragic, hilarious, and ultimately humiliating end to a segment that proves one thing. The ego is a dangerous bronze-plated drug. Subscribe if you're tired of the circus.